Hi everyone, welcome back to What the FinTech, your FinTech Feel Good show. What the FinTech is a news and information platform covering the latest FinTech development in Hong Kong, Singapore, China, and Asia. Join us every week for an engaging conversation with various Asian tech figures to discuss entrepreneurship, emerging technologies, customer engagement, and partnerships. And today we have Caroline from Goose Collective. How are you, Caroline?
I am doing well. Thank you very much, Medhy, for having me.
It's a pleasure. I saw you last time at some event, and I was like, "Wow, I have to have you on this show." And I'm super happy to have you today. So it's amazing. Uh, Before we start to speak about what you are doing right now, maybe you can give us a quick introduction of who you are, what you did before, and everything you know about fintech and Web3 and
Sure,
everything.
sure. So obviously, my name is Caroline. I'm currently the director of marketing at Gusto Collective. But before this, before I jumped into BrandTech, I was actually in FinTech. I was working as the head of corporate comms for Acumen, the robo advisor here in Hong Kong, for about a year, almost 2 years, I'd say. And then, but before that, actually, I pivoted quite a big deal from fashion, retail, luxury into FinTech. So that's a little bit about me. I never studied fintech, never studied finance, but I majored in law and also Egyptian archaeology.
Wow. So how you came from Egyptian archaeology to fashion and now fintech?
Well, my professors would be very glad that I'm going to use the term interdisciplinary skill sets.
Okay.
Yes. So all the skill sets that apply to human psychology, be it the past or the present, can also be applied here in the future, in the now. And obviously, with technology, honestly speaking, it's just another tool set.
I imagine like coming to Akuman and this now Gusto Collective, you had different turning points. What were your turning points to start a career on fintech?
So I guess this is an interesting thing. When I jumped from fashion into fintech, my role was to actually make kind of financial terms much more approachable. That was
Okay.
my job, right? Financial technology, just finance itself is already very hard to decipher. But add in the tech, it's completely incomprehensible for people outside of the know. Now, leveraging on that kind of skill set, me jumping from fintech into brand technology is almost the same. I'm still trying to tell people what brand tech actually means to this day and age. And ultimately, what we say is it's storytelling powered by tech.
Okay. So can you tell us a bit more about what you are doing today? What is Gusto Collective? What you are redoing for them as a director of marketing?
Sure. So, Gusto Collective, we call ourselves Asia's first brand tech group. And as I was saying, what we do is we tell very compelling stories on behalf of clients and use all sorts of technology to tell the story. Most of it is mostly immersive technology. So we actually play around with VR, XR, metahumans. We also do Web3 marketing as well. We build out metaverses, we do NFT minting, you name it. Anything within that realm that can help a brand kind of progress their stories to their clients. In terms of what I'm doing for the brand, obviously I'm doing the corporate marketing. So again, it's a lot of education. So similar to fintech, I'm just educating the public about what this next step is. Now, how the transition between the fintech, I guess I didn't finish this a little bit,
Sorry.
but how I transitioned between fintech and into brand tech is the little thing called crypto, right? NFTs and crypto digital assets. So there was a little bit of a crossover when I was working with the fintech. We were looking into a lot of crypto strategies. And then we talked about NFTs when it imploded on the scene sometime during COVID 2020, 2021. And so, with that as a backing, brand tech came very naturally.
Um, so what do you do exactly with Gusto Collective? Because I understand it's a B2B platforms, right? For
Oh, okay. Let me give you the full spectrum. Okay. So Gusto Collective, we actually have four specialisms. Mainly for lots of people to understand, we do help a lot of brands. So it's a B2B situation. But we also have our own IPs and products. So as I was saying, four different specialisms. One of the specialisms is actually much more Web 2 and legacy building. So we do a lot of luxury marketing, PR, strategizing, and also for a lot of go-to-market China strategies, right? So that's like the very, very basic stuff. You do the PR, the events, the things that you know about of normal marketing. Then you get the cool stuff, which is the more Web3 facing things. So we have the AR technology. So we actually help brands build out. Let's say they want some events happening in their malls, we can build out that technology. Then we have metahumans, which is actually virtual influencers nowadays. And people want the virtual influencers or brand want to do virtual influencing rather than with real KOLs nowadays, is because they realize they're scandal free, they're evergreen, and also they don't stop working, And finally, we have that Web3 thing that we were talking about, the Web3 specialism, where we help brands build out in the metaverse and in this new technology and space.
It's very funny because this morning I was watching the French TV and I saw on one of my favorite show that in China there is a gaming company and now the CEO is a virtual AI and
Oh,
it's a
wow.
virtual CEO. And so she's working 24 hours. She's like, she has no fluctuation of the mood. She's always the same. She speaks every time the same to the company and she just want the best of the company and the employee. So pretty amazing to see that you're working also on some of this project and just the point you mentioned with virtual influencers, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, that's quite interesting. I guess I'm not even on that news that strongly, but if you did have a virtual influencer as your CEO, for sure, they would always be very consistent in their messaging and they will be working around the clock. So, what work life balance? But I think for brands, there are a lot of benefits to having these virtual influencers. One of the issues, especially in China recently, you'll notice that there are quite a few celebrities caught up in a lot of scandals, be it tax evasion or other things. So a lot of brands are very worried because these are multi-million dollar campaigns and sponsorship programs. And with the virtual influencers, what you're also noticing with the Gen Z crowd is they actually relate quite a bit to these virtual influencers. Sometimes I think one of the research shows that they relate to the virtual influencers even more so than a real person.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. And how do you translate this to the business as a, like you bring this to the different corporate? Maybe sometimes they're not really aware of what you are doing. So there's a lot of education there, I'm pretty sure. So do you have like a best way to explain this to the company or to showcase what you are doing exactly?
Well, I would give them that entire speech. I haven't found a more succinct way of explaining it. Granted, the Web3 space is actually very, very nascent, right? Everybody's still scrambling to see how do you build out a metaverse? What does it mean? What are the use cases, etc. So I think I'm very lucky to be part of Gusto Collective, which is really pioneering the path right now. We do a lot of turnkey solutions or proof of concepts that haven't been out in the market yet. So by how the companies would be able to find us and understand what we do, actually, it's mostly through case studies. So
Okay.
I think one of the really, really cool case studies we did for Web3, and I know we were talking about a panel on building out a metaverse, right? Especially with DBS. But for the Web3 case study that we have right now, which is pretty strong, have you heard of the film Warriors of Future?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So this film currently is literally kind of shaking Hong Kong in a bit because it's a locally produced sci-fi film by the actor slash producers Louis Koo. And I think the budget was something ridiculous, like something 80 mil or something like that.
Mhm.
And he produced it over 6 years. This is the first ever big sci-fi project that has all the graphics similar to Hollywood, but done here in Hong Kong. So with this film, Louis Koo approached Gusto Collective and said, "Hey, I'd like to do some NFTs." Back when NFTs were still trending and a hot topic.
Mhm.
And our team came back and we were like, "Well, do you just want to do a profile picture flex? Is that all it's going to be?" And with NFTs, a lot of people are like, "Well, this is just a money grab. What is the exact utility you're giving your loyal fans and customers?" So we were like, "Hey, we have a better idea. Why don't we flesh it out for you? Why don't we build a use case scenario for this film, for the marketing behind it, and make it much more holistic?" So what we did was we took the film elements. So they wear these transformer looking suits. We call them exosuits. And we made 10,000 different NFTs for that. Now, granted, usually you buy the NFT, it's a lovely profile picture, maybe it moves. But this particular NFT, we actually programmed it so that all the attributes are interchangeable. So they're all built on chain and you can swap it, kind of like your Lego heads and bodies. So as many NFTs you buy, you can swap it out. Now, not only do you do that, we've also built him a game. So for the movie, we built out a mobile game that's similar to Temple Run, where you can load in your digital avatar. So whatever you purchased, it will actually be live streamed onto the game. And likewise, we actually worked with a lot of retailers. So 7-Eleven, we worked with Hot Toys. We made digital copies of these toys. So it means that when you purchase these things, you can also load out your avatar with the weapon in virtual space, right? So altogether, I think it just heightens the level of engagement and interaction you have towards this film. Because ultimately, I think what Louis Koo wants is to build out a series or world altogether similar to Marvel, right? Then you can build out a metaverse, you can make a universal studios happen, and people would want to engage with it. They want to engage with the IPs. They would want to go inside, learn more about the behind the scenes, listen to all the different actors talk about what happened. And in fact, if you can get all the IPs together, it's like Disneyland and Disney World. You can put everything together and it would make it for such an engaging and immersive experience.
It's the first time I hear this story about like creating this kind of environment and games for a movie. Is it already live?
It,
And
it is live. It is live already. So we minted actually back in 6th of August. And then this is a very interesting case study too, because you know how the NFT market's tanked. In fact, most of the crypto market is not doing so well right now. We call it what,
right,
the third crypto winter?
yeah,
But in any case, this is when the strategy of what we call reality to virtual and virtual to reality has to be switched on. So now, when the crypto land is not doing so well, we have to activate the offline. So back into the reality part. So we actually pivoted really quickly. So we're like, okay, NFTs are going live, but the market's not looking great. Let's see if we can do retail sales. So we actually switched out the NFTs so that we partnered up with a different company and they could take payment like fiat payment rather than Ethereum and whatnot. So you could engage the wider public. Then we also leveraged on the computer festival. We managed to scramble, get ourselves a booth, put everything out there. Louis Koo made an appearance. All his fans came. Everybody bought the packages, which was you get an NFT, you get a T-shirt, you get a tote, and you get some movie tickets. And that's how we packaged everything in order to pivot when times are changing.
pretty cool, pretty cool. And well, like I'm super surprised about this case. I really like it, to be honest with you. Um, I will take a look after this podcast. I really want to try. Can I play it on the computer, on mobile, on
Mobile app. It's a
mobile app?
mobile app. When it launched a week after the NFTs did, and when it got on, it was like I think it reached top 6 within the first 3 days. So there was a lot of fan attention. And I think what's also really incredible about what Gusto Collective did was we also managed the Discord. So
Okay,
I don't
yeah.
know if you've looked at Discord. It's like a 24/7 gig. And in order to rouse people's interest, you have to do so much like AMAs, crossovers. It was one of the biggest projects I think that we launched here in Hong Kong or in Asia, where we managed to garner around about 30,000 fans in a very, very short period just to hype up the entire project itself. Right. And to get the fans community very engaged, we did design contests where you can design the NFT so that we would launch it for you. We did another AR filter for Louis Koo himself so that people would get free tickets to the movies. It's a very, very comprehensive marketing strategy. And I think because it's been so revolutionary in the way how we're working the IPs, we've been garnering a lot of press for it.
Pretty cool, pretty cool. I see a lot of companies here doing Web3 NFTs, but I saw the name of Kuso Collective coming back a lot. I also meet you during some events. I could see what you are doing, right? What is the difference between you and the other companies here? Are you specialized on one specific stream or field, or do you have like some specific, IP, as you just mentioned?
Mm. So I think it's several prongs. So the first prong is there are a lot of companies hyping as Web3 companies that can build out in the Web3. They can do all of the stuff that I just said: NFT minting, contracts, blockchain technology. But I've realized that there is actually still a bit of a bridging between Web3 folks and back to Web2 guys, right? And most of the market is still in Web2. Now, why Gusto has a bit of an edge is because, well, A, we're actually quite Web2 in a way. A lot of the founding members were from advertising industries, PR industries, marketing agencies as well. And then what we did was we actually brought out a whole tech crew. So we're combining something that's very Web 2 with the technology of Web 3 and doing the translation work. And it's actually in that translation work that the true value comes through, right? A lot of the times when I'm in Twitter, Discord, trying to understand the markets a little bit better, I also find it quite confusing. So I can't imagine someone who's completely out of the scene trying to get into it. And our job is actually to navigate all the Web2 big brands, conglomerates into this space so they can take advantage of the technology. Now, on the second prong of why we're slightly different as well, is that we already have a lot of existing clients. So, Gusto Collective officially started out in 2020 by our founder and CEO, Aaron Lau. Now, he's actually a marketing and branding veteran for many, many years. He was the CEO of the DDB agency for almost 20 years. He started his first digital advertising agency, and that got bought out by Samsung. Then he worked for Samsung for like a good decade almost before he started his second venture, this Gusto Collective. And he actually saw the opportunity of bridging that, exactly what I was saying, the Web 2 space and the Web 3. So when he came on to do Gusto Collective, he already had a vision. We're going to expand very quickly and we're going to actually acquire companies that would suit this skill set. So we actually acquired a company in Shanghai that was firstly, I think, suited out with 40 or so people. It was a communications agency. So, as I said, the Web 2 aspect of it. And then he then purchased another company from the Cyberport incubation. It was called 26 Hertz back in the day, but now it's part of the Gusto Collective team. And these are the guys who do all the experiential reality tech. And so, him combining these two very, very special skill sets, it's very hard to find people, actually. It's very hard to find talent that actually can traverse across this. And because we have the backing of these clients that are already existing customers of these companies, it's much easier to push through these initiatives.
You mentioned you have a lot of clients, and so you should have a lot of product, right? So
Yes.
how do you develop your product? Do you do some A/B testing? Do you? It's always tailor made based on the campaign of your clients or what they want to achieve.
So I guess that's a business model question, right? So we do a little bit of, actually, we do a lot of customized content at the moment. A lot of these case studies are actually very unique to the client needs, but we do have an issue of whether or not this is fully scalable, right? So if you want to go tech, you want to do scalability. So we're actually developed an AR platform whereby some of the more, I would say, a little bit more easy, user friendly tech can then be adopted en masse. For example, AR filters. We can generate those quite quickly. You have tech packages that do it, and we add in the creative aspect. Now, for the other projects like the Lewis Coup project, that one's a huge one, but very customized. We have some ongoing projects that I can't disclose yet, but they're also with wonderful luxury brand names, big conglomerate names, and they all want very unique visions that they want to execute. So those we actually also customize for them. Now, on the flip side of things, we also are an IP owner. So we're not just an agency. And by this, my CFO definitely tells me we are not an agency. So we have our own products and IPs. One of the products that we do are the metahumans. So we actually run and operate our own virtual influencers. And these are kind of like entertainment IPs or licensing IPs. We then collaborate with brands so that we can push forward the different objectives of the brands and also of our metahumans. So one of the very, very cool projects I'm on right now is actually with our metahuman named Manok. She's of a luxury slash art specialism, and she's a metahuman artist. Now, she's pretty incredible because she's actually already generated art pieces that are A, auctioned off by Philips back in February. So she uses a lot of generative AI data. And through these kind of very, very interesting and innovative projects, people perk up and sit up and listen, right? They're saying, okay, an AI generated human can also make AI generated artwork. How does this work? What is the world coming to? It's a lot of dialogue and buzz around it. And because of this, the Hong Kong government also decided, hey, for our 25th anniversary, we're doing Art by the Harbor. We would love to invite Manok as one of the exhibiting artists. So she actually also has an exhibition down by the harbor right now. And through this project, then we also have luxury brands coming to us, kind of big property developers coming to us and being like, hey, how can we work with this really, really cool IP, this really, really cool metahuman? So, actually, upcoming next month, she's going to be showcasing her first solo show with the Digital Art Fair, where she's going to do 6 generative art pieces. And it's going to be absolutely incredible. It's going to be a whole installation coming together.
Well, it's really cool. I mean, like, it looks like you're already in the future, or like some of the movie CryptoPunk, or like a Blade Runner. Do you have any culture in your company pushing for this innovation, or like the vision of driving by the co-founder is pushing you towards this innovative project, but also innovative um, um, products that you are developing right now?
Yes, actually, we do have a lot of town halls about this, and this is something I really love about Gusto. So Aaron sat down with us actually just 2 days ago, and he was talking about what he sees for the future of the company. First off, we have 3 main targets. One, do best in class work, right? And he's very correct in doing and saying so, right? If you keep taking on mediocre work, what is the average that you're going to get from building out mediocre projects? You're going to be a mediocre company. So we are determined to only do best in class work, and not just Asia's best in class, but we're actually gunning for global best in class. I really, really admire how Aaron actually wants to put Hong Kong back on the map as a creative hub. And he's very, very passionate about this because he's 63 at the moment, and for him, this is his kind of last hurrah project where he really wants to push for and make a difference for Hong Kong. So that's one thing that he really drills down into it for us. Second, we want to be best in class employer. So that means we want to take the best practices all over the globe to ensure that our team is a happy, well nourished, and also future facing team. So I think that's very, very important considering that most of us spend more than 10 hours a day at work, honestly speaking. So it's very important that you love what you do and you see a future in what you do as well. Finally, innovation. So that's really, really a key point for Gusto Collective. And Aaron always has a saying. He says, you have over centuries of brotherly love and peace in Switzerland. And what do you get? You get Swiss chocolate, Swiss watches, and I guess pretty nice hiking scenery, right? But in Italy, you get really like a chaotic, strife filled land. And those are centuries and centuries of it. But from this kind of chaos, you get Leonardo da Vinci, you get Michelangelo, you get Prada, you get Giorgio Armani, you get all the beautiful things. And it only comes from a positive and creative chaos when ideas clash. And that's where innovation happens. And I'm always astounded by some of the interesting thoughts and concept he has. And I think it really inspires the team.
Do you bring like any innovative people into the company just to do town hall or speaking, or just some of your teammates are just trying new technologies every time to bring this innovation to you?
So we do a lot of reading. So right now, because we're a startup, me and Mike, we've only joined 3 months ago. So we're just starting up a lot of our internal innovation programs, lunch and learns. But for the existing team, how we continue to be so creative is we do find people from very, very diverse backgrounds, right? You have creative art directors sitting next to tech guys, guys who play with Unity, game development, sitting next to social media guys. So you have all of them talking, right? And our team likes to play around with new concepts. They see something, they want to try it out. So we do a lot of experimental testing inside of the offices where sometimes we utilize the statues and be like, ooh, can we do an AR hat on this statue? Let's see. Can we put a pumpkin on here? So they actually do a lot of testing before we actually showcase the work to our clients. And I think that, for now at least, keeps our innovation juices flowing.
Cool, cool, cool. Do you face any challenge when you speak with your clients? Because most of the company you're working with are super traditional, right? You mentioned at the beginning Web 2, you're
Mm.
speaking with company like working in different field who are super, super traditional. So what are those challenges you have and how do you overcome them?
Hmm. So I remember back in the panel we were talking about this. First off, a lot of clients don't know what Web3 is. Is it a buzzword? Is it going to stay? Is it going to last? So we actually do have to educate by saying, hey, we thought the internet was just the little dial up tone from back in the day. Who knew that the internet would be as prosperous as it is now with all sorts of e commerce? So Web3 is just the next iteration of that. It has to be fully immersive. And that's what we're looking forward to it as well. Now, apart from the education, a lot of clients are also hesitant about budgets, right? And time and resources. I think, especially in Hong Kong, all clients think that you can generate work within just a 3 month schedule and build out an entire universe.
Mm.
So we have to educate. We have to be like, this is phase one. Let's do phase one first, baby steps, because if you put in a lot of money and the technology is still very nascent, and you're not getting the ROI, you'll just cut that project altogether. If it's a bad project, in fact, I think a lot of the NFTs, unfortunately, are not the greatest projects, which then makes people think, oh, it's a scam. It kind of gives NFTs a bad name. So, what we want to do is make sure that each of the projects we do take on, each of the clients we do brief, understand that aspect and that we're a working partner, not just a one off occasion situation, because that's not how our business model runs. We're actually the partners in helping to build up, set up, and continuously run that business in Web3. And I think finally, one of the issues with or challenges that we have to deal with clients is also making them understand what the tech is, right? It's that translation work again. We need a lot of project managers to make them understand, hey, this AR filter, it's not like poof, you do this and do that and it's created, right? There are lots of steps and procedures, and we need information, a constant feedback loop. And it's also, we're all just testing the waters right now,
Mm.
right? We're as much of an expert in it. Granted, we have the tech behind it, but we're still trying out this space. And some of the clients that we work best with are those who have an experimental mindset.
I spoke with a lot of companies doing Web3, NFT, metaverse, right? And even if it's a nascent technology and product, some company have only like 1 year or 2 year of existence. The knowledge that they bring is really interesting. Um, you spoke about NFT being a scam. It's like a common myth, right, for the companies. Do you have other common myths that you need to, demystify when you speak with your customer?
Mm, metaverses. I think a lot of common myth is a metaverse is just basically a bunch of avatars running around. But actually, a true metaverse, and I think this is quite a key concept, a true metaverse or true Web3 is actually decentralized, which means we're using a lot of blockchain technology. So trying to explain that to a customer is already a big woo, because a lot of the things we do right now in Web 2 is it's all centralized servers. It's all Google Cloud or Amazon Cloud, you name it. Now, to get to a true metaverse, it means everyone can plug into this serverless almost basis, and it's not owned by anyone but the users themselves. So when people come to us and be like, hey, we want to build out a metaverse, and we're like, okay, do you know it'll need this blockchain technology? Ooh, but when we talk about blockchain, does that mean people need to open wallets? And we're like, yes, that's part of the ID process. And they're like, ooh, that's a big hurdle. I don't really think our customers are ready for that. So we are doing something called the Web 2.5 for them. We're like, okay, you're not fully ready to engage in this kind of technology. Let us build you mini verses where we're still based on centralized servers. You can still plug people into this. You don't need any sign up. We try to make the user experience as easy as possible so that you get a taste of it before we move that tech onto the blockchain.
Okay, very cool. Um, do you work with some of the banks, for example, right now, without disclosing the name and all the information? But they are the one like right now in Hong Kong. They are the one like really starving for NFT metaverse. So it's something you can see also in the market, or maybe it's a trend you can see with other industries as well, if it's not bank.
Yeah, for sure. I think banks right now, DBS being one, HSBC being another one. We currently don't work with them, but we would love to. So, hey guys who's listening to this podcast, by the way, we build out all of this technology. But right now, mostly we deal with a lot of retail brands and conglomerates. And when we say this, it's because conglomerates are generally based here in Asia. So those heads can make a decision on the metaverse, right? Whereas when the companies who have their headquarters based in Europe or elsewhere, they might be talking to other companies. So what we're mostly focused on in Hong Kong, just name dropping a little. So we do 7-Eleven, we do CSL, we helped Swire as well. We also have I think it was Rosewood Group, et cetera. So a lot of these companies would be more or less inclined to talk to us and maybe experiment and try it out and have a chat about the metaverse. But also, on the flip side of things, we're also looking into maybe beauty brands. It's actually any of the companies who do have a budget to experiment with. And as we say with metaverse, right? It's okay to start small, but you just have to kind of get in, learn a little bit more about the technology so that when everything starts imploding on a very, very mass and fast scale, you're not left behind.
Okay, very cool. Do you see anything happening on the Web3 or NFT side right now? We are close to Halloween, we are close to Christmas, and close to Chinese New Year for next year. So I imagine some of the company are already like thinking forward and try to bring new trend there.
Yeah, actually, not just the Halloween. I think recently it's been fashion weeks all over the
Oh
place,
yes,
right?
that's true.
So all the fashion brands have done their NFT drops. They've done something very interesting. I think Balmain has come up with one called the Gold Thread. It's an NFT loyalty program, and it's super exciting seeing what's being developed in this space because NFTs previously, as I said, they were mostly profile pictures that show, oh, you're in with this community. But a lot of people actually try to ape it and then sell it, right? So I think with the current NFTs, a lot of the brands are discouraging the selling part of it. And in fact, if you go into China, NFTs become digital collectibles and there's no secondary trading markets at all. So, what we actually see the future usage for the NFTs is that it's going to become a super loyalty fans club rather than just a secondary, buy sell market. And it's interesting because all the brands are activating it. They're saying, hey, if you sell this NFT, you lose all the perks and privileges. Before, I might send you like a nice jacket, like a real life jacket. Now you sell it, you don't get any of that perks. The person who buys it also doesn't get any of these perks. So it's interesting how the brands are shaping the stories as well of how these NFTs are operating in the space. Upcoming Christmas, I'm pretty sure we would see a lot of metaverses with a lot of winter wonderland themes. Halloween as well. I'm sure Roblox already has tons of things planned for the Halloween special, Thanksgiving special, Christmas special. And I'm actually really looking forward to any of the more interesting concerts happening in the space as well. I think entertainment and metaverses really go hand in hand.
Yeah, I saw recently like Starbucks Odyssey. So they want to bring the loyalty program into the metaverse and give a
Exactly.
Web3 experience to everyone. So I think they will start soon in US and they will grow after this. There are countries where they want to do this. Also, you mentioned about the digital collectibles. I'm a big fan of some of the platforms where you can have your football players on the card and you can play with them as an NFT. This is
Yeah.
happening a lot in Europe and US, not so much here in Hong Kong, but I think it brings a value to say, hey, this is my team. I like the player of my team. I want to support them, especially when I'm a big fan of comics as well. You want to have the first book of the guy when you like it. So it brings a lot of value on this.
Yeah, for sure. I think ultimately Web3, NFT, all of that movement is having more ownership over the items, right? And building community. I can't stress enough how important community is at the end of the day, right? Internet first time users back in the day, Web 1, it was all about these guys going on a forum just to talk, right? Honestly speaking, it really was that. It's a sense of community, a sense of belonging. And I think same here. Could it be Pokemon cards? Could it be you're a big Hermes fan? It's all about talking to people who are like minded and then building that rapport. And I think people really value that.
Yeah, I remember listening to a podcast and the guy was saying like the biggest strength of an NFT is to bring you loyalty and also like love or the passion of loving something and be emotionally connected to it.
Yes,
So this is interesting. So this is what you see coming more right now.
for
Uh,
sure.
do you see any like you spoke about gamification at the beginning and gaming? Do you see gaming will still be a big part of Web3 right now and NFTs?
I think gaming is actually a huge entry gateway to NFTs and Web3 because just like how Web2 was actually at first for the gamers, Web3 will be mostly for the gamers. You can see the ones who adopt it the quickest are actually the kids in Roblox and Fortnite, right? And they're the ones actually driving the use cases. And the brands are seeing this, Gucci going into Fortnite and Roblox going, hey, you know what? We can give their avatars digital costumes and people pay money for it. But something that I think Mark Zuckerberg was saying that was also quite interesting was he was saying fitness also will be one of the driving factors into Web3. So, especially with COVID, right? We all had to exercise, but we were all cooped up at home. Doing at home fitness was such a big deal. That Peloton, those stocks rose like crazy back in the day as well. So he's saying a lot of the exercise you do now, that's actually going to be a part of that entertainment, fitness, and kind of health wellness kind of thing that drives the Web3 applications. The other one that we were saying is the emotional connection. And I think why we also specialize in luxury is because with all luxury brands, you are trying to tell a very emotionally appealing story for your customers. That's how you become an aspirational brand. So we see that as a really good crossover as well.
Very cool, very cool. Um, I also know some of the application when you run, they count your steps and they can transform this in the cryptocurrencies, for example, and you need
Exactly.
to buy the new Nike shoes there. And if you have the best shoes, you have more rewards. Interesting, interesting. You came from the traditional market, like with Acumen or Advisor. You went to now this company, Gusto Collective, focusing on Web3. Do you see a switch in terms of investment or growing impact of the investment on Web3 right now in the metaverse companies?
Mm. Well, I would say that actually the metaverse funds that have been coming through was only a very, very recent phenomenon, right? You had a lot of big funds who were just like, we're going to put money into Web3. But a lot of Web3 companies right now are still privatized, which means they're mostly VC funds or they're PE funds ish, everything on the private scale. But we do see a lot more companies activating that and a lot more interest is going into the space. They want to invest in this nascent technology. Now, obviously, with Facebook's name change into Meta, and so much news coming through saying, is this a money pit? We don't know. And, Mark Zuckerberg himself saying it probably might take a decade before you actually see the returns coming through. I see this as very, very early stage. You're talking about like angel investing and don't expect returns in the next 5 years. But people are interested. And I think you do need that kind of funding, research, and development to go into that space. Especially because, honestly speaking, I think some of the technology is not quite there yet, right? In order to get all these VR systems fully commercialized and en masse, there's still some very, very key turnstone technology that hasn't been available. And I think we need to crack those codes. And so more R&D needs to go into it before we can have a fully ready player one kind of situation happen. But I think it is soon. I think the interest there is great. Now, comparatively to fintech has always garnered a lot of interest. In fact, the government here in Hong Kong and Asia, actually all over the world, pushes for it because finance is such a core part of who we are as people. We definitely need finance to go around. So I don't necessarily see all the budgets switching off from the fintech investments, but I certainly see a certain allocation for alternative assets going into Web3 and metaverses.
Okay, thank you very much. We're really close to the end of this interview. You share a lot of content, so I'm pretty excited about it. But maybe you can share with us some recommendation of books or podcasts or YouTube channel you are following.
Okay, so for some of the books or articles I actually enjoy reading. These are much more on the management side, though. So
Okay.
I do enjoy reading a lot of management books because ultimately, as you can see, I switch from industry to industry. But some things don't change, which is people managing people, right? So with management books, I really enjoy Peter Drucker's book. It's called The Effective Executive, and I think he has some really really good nuggets on how to a motivate the team, b allocate tasks properly and get the best out of the team members. Then another article I really, really enjoy reading, and to this day, it's still stuck with me. It's crazy. It was only like 20 pages, but it's actually from Harvard Business Review, and the article was how do you measure your success? I think I can check for the exact author. We might supplement that, but what he says inherently is whatever you do in life, how do you measure how successful you are, right? Your success could be measured by the amount of money, maybe your health, how happy you are with your family. And he did a research whereby he actually asked everybody in his Harvard business class to write down at the beginning what they saw, their metric for successes. Then he goes back 20 years later just to, check on everybody's progress. And he realized some of his friends did white collar crime, ended up in jail. Some of them have awful health. Some of them are in divorces because they prioritize work over their family. And he was just saying, you know what? Everybody at the beginning writes about, oh, I just want a happy life. I just want good health. I just want to make sure I'm with the people I love. And yet we do so many things in between that don't really lead there. So I think that's something that's really stuck with me, being authentic to that priority, right? What success means to you personally rather than chasing different goalposts. And finally, another management book, The Prince Machiavelli. A little bit more of an old read, but I find some of the strategies worth kind of contemplating on how to drive a ship. It's similar to running a country, really.
I will make sure to read them, especially the one on the Harvard piece. I think it's pretty interesting to see what is the evolution of these persons during 20 years, and you give me the appetite to read it, so it's pretty interesting. If you have to give one biggest takeaway or hope to share with everyone listening this podcast, what would be?
Hmm. Well, since we're on the topic of metaverse, I would say the biggest takeaway is try to get a little bit more involved. Listen in on what the kids on the block are saying. I think that's because then this is the upcoming generation and it's going to be vastly different from what you and I have grown up with. And being in touch with what the trend is very important so you don't fall behind. So I think scary as it may be, put yourself out there because we're all just learning.
Pretty cool, pretty cool. Where listener or people watching this video can learn more about you?
What they don't know about me, well, I was just going to say I was an Egyptian archaeologist, but on my spare time, sometimes I'm a serial hobbyist. I knit. I love doing my tea meditations. I also enjoy doing inside flow yoga, if you ever heard of what that is.
Yeah, yeah. I'm very bad at it, but yeah, I see. Where we can find more information about you on your LinkedIn? Do you have a Twitter or maybe a Discord you are
Oh,
managing yourself?
Discord, I have to be on the anonymous profile, right? Web3. But actually, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can just type in Caroline York, DFI or Gusto Collective, and you'll see me pop up. I always have very, very interesting updates about what the company is doing, some of the case studies, and in fact, some industry news as well. So you can stay tuned in on Metaverse Web3 happenings there.
Thank you very much for this interview. It was really great to have you. I will make sure to play the video game just after and go to visit the fair of your
The MetaHuman.
MetaHuman. Yeah,
For sure. Digital Art Fair, everybody, October 22nd. Thank you so much, Medhy, for having me here today.
thank you very much. Have a nice day. Bye bye.
Yep. Thank you. Bye.